I'm the same because like even when I had relaxers, I wasn't like I was never a do my hair every day type of girl in the mirror. I was
Mm-hmm.
never that was never me. So yes, if I could comb out my doobie and go, that was it. That was enough. So when it came to like having now natural hair, and it was like 100 million steps, I was never even built for that, even when I was relaxing my hair. So it was just like, none of this is
Exactly.
for me. Let me just get some braids. Let me just get some twists. Let me just get some that. But even when I did that for folks, it was like, do you not like your hair? Like, why do you never have your hair out? Hi, my name is Queen. I'm the founder of Mixed Vixen. If you are new here, hey boo. If you're not new here, thanks for coming through. I appreciate you. So I'm sure you saw the title. We will be talking about the natural hair movement today. And I thought it would just be amazing to have someone have this conversation with me. So I want to introduce you, Uchechi. We met each other while being panelists on the Grapevine. I'm sure that you have seen that show before. She's also one half of the Run and Tape podcast and an amazing writer. So thank you for having this conversation with me. I know it's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So I just want to start off with, what are your thoughts on what has become the natural hair movement? Do you think it's dead? That conversation has been floating around a lot lately. So what are your thoughts on whether it has ended or not?
I think if people have come to the realization that they are never going to achieve hair like Tracy Ellis Ross, and that is what is killing, or quote unquote killing, because I think people who are natural are going to stay natural.
Yes.
There wasn't a movement, but I think the popularity is dying down because people are realizing there is no amount of product that's going to change your texture or your hair, the coarseness of it, or make it longer or anything of that. So I really think that is what is happening. People are coming to that realization, and so it's turning natural hair almost into an enemy.
Yes. I want to touch on that. I do want to give my thoughts first on what I think is happening. I think that movements are always temporary, so that's why I generally don't like to call anything a movement. So I think we're just seeing that. So like if we think about the natural hair movement in the 60s, it was really a statement to say I'm black and proud to be black. It wasn't about texture or the stuff that we are talking about when we say natural hair. And then now it was, I guess, supposed to be about us embracing our texture when all we did was try to manipulate our texture to look like Tracy
Mm-hmm.
Ellis Ross's hair, like, like you just said. But I think because we called it a movement, that's why it's kind of dying. It's like, it's just the evolution of of the relationship that black women have with our hair. It's not really like a movement. I
Mm-hmm.
think we keep trying to like attach like stuff to it that it's like, makes it seem like a dated notion, or idea or whatever. I don't think anything black woman does dies. That's another thing that I have kind of an
Right.
issue with.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just an evolution of the relationship that we have with our hair. Now we have, foresight to realize like, wait a minute, I was still doing this, even though it's not a relaxer, I was still using those same principles to manipulate my hair to still appease these other systems and
And
things.
I think that's what the issue is. I think a lot of people don't want to come to that realization that they were still doing the things that, like, we were manipulating our hair for it to look a certain way and be a certain length. And I think a lot of people are saying it's too much work because they're coming to that realization, but the cognitive dissonance is not allowing them to admit, like, hey, I actually don't like the texture of my hair.
Yes.
And that's why I don't want to do this anymore. That's what the effort is in. That's what the struggle is. I really don't put my hair like that. And now, like, but if you tell them like the reason that you're having trouble is because you're manipulating your hair, and they'll tell you that's how you're supposed to handle natural
Yes.
hair, when you don't have to. The most that you have to do with your hair is maintain it. Like that's it. And maintenance, wash, keep it clean, and make sure that you are able to, like, I don't know, put it in a ponytail or like comb it out or whatever you want
Yeah.
to do with it. But the bare minimum is really to keep it clean. That's
Yeah.
it. Styling is a completely different story.
Exactly. And I think that was the issue, the styling, because also who we was learning from were not people who were like trained to do hair. It was just people on YouTube who was just figuring out what they liked for their hair, and we just assumed that it would work for ours. And I know one thing that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know until we went through this particular movement in the 2000s. I didn't know that Black women had like different textures even within kinkiness until like
Mm-hmm.
now. Like I didn't like, yes, me and my sisters had different textures of hair, but to us it was all nappy hair, so it wasn't, I
Yeah.
never thought of it in that way. So like when I was introduced to the grading system, even though we know that is like a racist system, even that was like silly to me because it was like, it's hair. I don't know. I just couldn't understand like why, because my hair was considered 4C and this person's hair was considered that. Like why would we be doing the same exact thing? You know, I just didn't get how we even got there. You know, it was just a weird time.
It definitely, I constantly think about how when I went natural in 2006, like my last relax was in
Mm-hmm.
2006. And even before that, we used to stretch our perms. So there was a point in time when I was like in seventh grade, I saw my hair was cutting. And so like my mom was like, well, you should stop perming your hair for like a year or two and then perm it, let it grow or
Yeah.
whatever like that, which is what I was doing. So I really didn't even know what my texture could be. And so when I got to college, after 3 years, I didn't do the big chop. After 3 years of just wearing braids and weaves, I decided to wear my hair out. And so, like, at the time, this is like 2008, 2009. There's nobody on YouTube
Yeah.
really. There was this one girl, African Express. This Kim A Tube, I think at the time. And then everybody else was like either had like a very loose curl or were like biracial
Mm-hmm.
women who just stopped straightening their hair. They didn't have the same experience that I did. And so, I think in that moment, it was shocking to me when I bought all these products because at the time you either had to buy it online or the only thing that was being sold in the stores was Talia
Mm-hmm.
Wajid. And I buy all this stuff. It's hundreds of dollars. I'm a college student. I don't have
Yeah.
any money. And I buy all these things. And I'm shocked that my hair does not fall like
Yes.
like the girl on social media. And I'm just like, what's going on? I'm doing all the twist outs. I'm doing all of the different types of like, the all the home remedies and stuff like that, and nothing is happening to my hair. And I think in that moment it dawned on me that, oh, like hair is different. There's no amount of and if I really wanted to look like that, I'm gonna have to go back to some type of
Yeah.
chemical.
Yeah, I had a very similar process. I didn't do a big chop. I was with weaves and braids, same exact thing. And then one day it was just like, let me just cut off the rest of this relaxer and like, go out in the world. And kind of had the same realization. Like it's a mental thing for you to do the things that you saw on YouTube, you not do it, so now you failed in quotations, and then I'm supposed to still walk out into the world and be proud of what was on my head. So I was always very, I wasn't deep into natural hair YouTube because I always felt disconnected because I never had
Yes.
those results. So it was like, fuck that, I'm not even doing that. I'll just do braids and weaves. I'll just do that way. I won't relax my hair, but I'll just keep my hair away because no one is really showing me how to like do my hair.
Do your hair. And that's the thing. Like, I wish that we made the connection that what we need to learn how to do is hair. Like, it's not natural hair that we have to
Yes.
tame. We have to actually learn. Because I'm like, I actually don't know how to do hair, period. Like, I have no idea what to do with my hair. I can't do hair for shit. I can't
Uh-huh.
braid. I can't do a proper twist out. I can't do a braid. Like, none of those things I am capable of doing. So, like, I don't know the way that, and I was after once I realized, I was like, oh, I'm actually like very not connected with the women who are on
Yeah.
social media or who are on YouTube. I left that alone because I'm like, I feel like I'm wasting my time. And then there was a point in time when there was like beef between like really big names at the time. I think her name was African Express and Kim A
Mm-hmm.
Tube. I think those are their names. And there's this whole back and forth with videos. And I was like, oh, like this? I just came here for hair. Oh, I have midterms to study for. Like, what's going on? But yeah, once I realized that I left that area completely. So like to even look at YouTube for anything, even as like for makeup, even as the makeup like industry was popping up on
Yeah.
YouTube, I didn't even bother because I'm like, to me, it felt like a space that wasn't catering to me in
Mm-hmm.
general. So I had left it alone, and and I was like, oh, I actually don't know how to do hair, period, and nobody is teaching us how to do
Yeah.
hair, how to like be Black women who know how to style
Yeah,
hair.
the only info, because I do know how to do hair, and but the only stylist, I guess YouTube stylists, that spoke to me were the ones who told me how to do installs, because no one was actually telling me what
Mm-hmm.
to do with my hair. So yes, I learned a lot of that from YouTube, learning how to install hair, but no one told me how to properly care for my hair. And it's not until now that I realized, because none of these people were trained professionals at all when it came to hair. It was really just kitchen table talk, and not to downplay it, but that's kind of just what it was. Um, and there came a time when I realized all the products I had, I was not using. I wasn't using any of them. And it was like, and I am a purger. I don't like excess. I don't like it. So it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
why do I have all of this? Why did I go from one perm box to all of
To
this?
a whole, your bathroom is overflowing with bottles and
Yes.
tubes and containers of stuff that you've made in your kitchen. Then you got stuff in your
It got,
fridge. Then you
yup.
have stuff that like everywhere. Then you're like being told, oh, this, and then of course, with the natural, with companies seeing that natural hair was becoming a thing. There, everybody is booming with the new like natural hair
Yup.
line, or like Pantene comes out with their gold line or their purple line,
Yeah.
whatever it was, and olive oil did the same thing, and like now the perms are trying, the relaxers are trying to reinvent themselves because nobody's buying the
Relaxes.
box kits
Yeah.
anymore. We're buying all these things because every time we go on like some type of like app, somebody's telling us like, oh, this will work, this will make your curls, like this will stretch your curls out, this will elongate them, this will give you length, this will remove fairy knots or whatever the hell them things are
Uh-huh.
called, that had us in our hair cutting every single piece of strand like crazy people. Like I'm just thinking about the moments that, and every time I would start, and I really have to be grateful that I am just like very lazy in my
Yes.
care, because to me, I just need to take a shower. Like I don't need to do much of anything else. So once it starts being too much for me, I'm like, this actually isn't
Yeah,
for me, and
same,
let me
same.
just
I
find something else.
I'm the same, because like even when I had relaxers, I wasn't like, I was never a do my hair every day type of girl in the mirror. I was
Mm-hmm.
never, that was never me. So yes, if I could comb out my doobie and go, that was it. That was enough. So when it came to like having now natural hair, and it was like 100 million steps, I was never even built for that, even when I was relaxing my hair. So it was just like, none of this is
Exactly.
for me. Let me just get some braids. Let me just get some twists. Let me just get some that. But even when I did that for folks, it was like, do you not like your hair? Like, why do you never have your hair out? And it's like, it's not about me not liking my hair. I've never been taught, at least at that point, I've never been taught how to take care of my hair. And I'm not doing 100 million steps. I'm not doing a lock method. I'm not doing any of that stuff.
And so you bring up the lock method just reminded me of something I saw recently. I stopped doing the lock method
Yeah.
years ago because it wasn't making sense to me. But recently, the person who started the lock method said that it was a scam. I wish I could find the video or whatever, but basically said that like this method does not work. There's no real science behind it, and it has really little to do with the impact of her hair.
Mm.
And we are starting to see more and more of that, and I'm actually really happy of like the minimalist movement that has come around, where it's been telling people like, you actually don't need any
Yup.
of these products, you don't need the balloons, you just need to wash your hair, and maybe a mousse or a
Yup.
gel if you really want to style it. And it's really had people in an uproar because again, I think it really forces people to accept their
As
hair
it
as is,
is.
because you can't hide behind
Yup.
anything. And so there's no more lock method. And now that the people who have created these things are coming out and saying, actually, I cheated and I used a texturizer, or I actually had relaxed hair this whole time, or every time I would, wash my hair, I would actually blow dry it to give it that
And
length
then
and
do
make you
it.
guys think,
Mm-hmm.
and then do it. Um, I think it's really, we're coming to terms with a lot of the realities of having a particular type of hair in a world that doesn't want us to engage with our own hair on the top of our
Mm-hmm.
heads.
Yeah. A lot of conversation that is attached to why the natural hair movement is dead or whatever the hell is because of the texturism or like the hair hierarchy that was created in that space, which for me being, and I'm just using it for the sake of colloquial people just understanding what that means,
Exactly. Yeah.
me being a 4C person, um, I just never felt included. I always felt excluded because I'm obviously low on the hierarchy of what hair is the acceptable hair, even though we're talking about, natural black people hair. So like what are some of the effects that maybe texturism has had? You don't have to say particularly on you, but just texturism in general, just seeing it in the world existing. How has that affected you
Um,
in this?
it has impact. I think one of the biggest things I used to see, was just a privilege that came along with having a particular type of texture. Just something that used to always amaze me was people would say, "I don't look good with natural hair," or people, or
Yes.
particularly in the dating world, like, a lot of men used to tell women that they didn't look good with natural
Yeah.
hair. And it always, always was women who did not have the loose curl
Mm-hmm.
texture. Oh, I've never seen a woman who looked like Danny Lee or
Yahara, what's her name?
or
Yahara Shahid
or Yahara
Shahidi. Yeah.
Shahidi or a Tracy Ellis Ross, like who anybody who had those types of textures, nobody ever told them that their hair didn't look good naturally or sure or curly. It was always women who had coily, kinky
Yeah.
hair. And so I think that was probably one of the biggest things, was that so many women felt were just derailed from even considering the option of wearing their hair as it is without any chemicals. And it really pushed a lot of women to, I think, do a lot of styles that they would be like, well, I have to have, like, for example, shortcuts. I and I'm gonna if there's ever something that I'm like, I see why you get relaxers. Like if I had a shortcut, I would definitely get a relaxer because who has time for that?
Yeah.
But like,
It is.
but like it's like one of those like styles that I think a lot of women even kind of went towards, like the knee long cut, because they could relax their hairs and nobody would really
Yeah.
question it. During the past like 10 or so years that everybody's gone natural and like chemical became like the bad guy. But I think that for real, texturism has impacted more than even the chemical relaxer has impacted the natural hair
Yeah.
movement, because a lot of people didn't even know what their hairs looked like and then just assumed, because of the way white supremacy worked, that we would all have a hair that somebody that is multicultural or
They sure would
multiracial
have.
would have.
Yeah.
And when we didn't, it was almost devastating
Yeah.
for a lot of people. I think it was like very traumatic for a lot of people to not experience, to have the hair that was on TV, and so they had to figure out how to handle and deal with that. And I don't think a lot of people figured out how to do that.
I know for me, texturism, yes, definitely affected me in the same ways, but I think because a lot of times my hair is mostly away. It's usually in braids or something like that. So what I do notice is the way people treat me differently based on whatever kind of style I have. So when I was in my bundles days, I was treated very well. Everyone, was
Mm-hmm.
fine. And I remember when I first started going natural, my whole like party scene had to change because I'm not going to get in the same clubs I used to get into with box braids
Mm-hmm.
or with a cute, big curly, so it like literally changed my social life, you know. Then another thing that I noticed is how differently people treat me based on my style, or the different
Yeah.
men or women that approach me based on my style, or the expectations people have for me based on my hairstyle. Like I noticed the kinkier my hair is, so if I'm wearing my hair out or if I have like a wig that's more like 4C-ish, people treat me way different than if I have like the loose curl wig on my head, and I'm literally the same person, same face, same but but literally because my hair is different. I know that when I wear hair that's long, elongated, that fits closer to the European standard, I'm treated better. But if my hair is big, it's something else. And it's jarring for me as a person who I literally change my hairstyle. You're similar. We change our hairstyle like every month. So it's really jarring to see month to month to month the different interactions that I have with people simply because of my hairstyle.
I've definitely had the same. I haven't worn a weave or my hair. The last time I wore my hair straight was maybe
Yeah,
2014
I
because
haven't.
I was in a wedding
Yeah.
where this woman said that we all had to wear straight hair. She she told me we all had to wear bundles, and I was like, "You're crazy." Um, Oh, and then she actually took me to the side and asked if I would relax my hair, and I was just like, you're wilding. So like I was just like, I can straighten it.
Uh-huh.
That's what you're gonna get out of me. I will not be putting pieces in my hair. But that was the last time, and I just recall how people were just like, and I've been at that time I had been natural for quite some
Mhm.
time, and I think that nobody had seen, or at least at the time I was working, so nobody had seen straight hair from me, and I go to work. I have all this hair that they weren't even thinking existed because, like, one thing my hair is going to do is
Yeah.
shrink. So,
Mhm.
like, I can only fight it for so much, even when I was trying to stretch it out. So I come to work and everybody's just like, "Oh my god, I had no idea you had all this hair." And I'm like, "What did y'all think?" And it did remind me how, like, I had a couple of black men that I worked
Mhm.
with, and of course, like, and the reason I'm speaking about black men is because, like, those are the people I
Yes,
interacted with.
exactly.
Like, even though my job was majority white, I'm not going to interact with them the same way I would with black
Yeah.
men. And a lot of the black men would come to me and they would touch my hair and they'd be like, "I didn't know you had all this length," or it's all like, and I used to be like, it's like they were seeing me for the first time.
Uh-huh.
And
Wow.
that's really and it's not something that has been lost to me in the past, but as an adult working and going through life, and I had already been dating and talking to men and being around men, just realizing in that moment how even the men I worked with, I saw them every single day except for Saturday and Sunday.
Mhm.
My hair being straightened was them seeing me for the first time, asking me questions about my life. Like, really, that is where our relationships actually started, with my hair being straight.
That is that is wild. That's wild. I know that I've experienced, like, I'm just thinking of language, certain language that's used for my hair. So like when I not so much now, but in the past, like just going to get it braided and stuff, and it was just like, you take off your scarf or we take out the twist and it's like and I'm just like could you not? Stuff like that. Or like when we were buying products and my anything that was geared toward our texture hair was like for dry, brittle. And it's just like,
Uh-huh.
why are you talking about my hair like this? You don't even know me. Like, how do you know if my hair is dry and brittle or whatever the
And
hell?
that's why all of us thought our hairs were damaged. All of us thought our hair was, broken. All of us
Yep.
assumed that our hair was super dry because every product was telling us that the feeling of our hair was incorrect.
Yes.
Not, and then in reality, what it was that the way that our hair feels is not going to feel the same as other people. Even
Yep.
within my own family, I'm the oldest of 7 children,
Mm-hmm.
and it's 6 girls and 1 boy. All of us within my mom's, we all came from the same parents. So yeah, all of us have like different textures, not significantly, but like the way that but like there's so many things that come into play regarding your hair, and that's like your hormones, your
Yeah.
weather, the things that you eat, things like all of that impacts the feeling of your hair. And I definitely wish the natural hair movement was based on the science and
Yeah.
those experiences more than the aesthetic of natural hair.
Yes.
because I think that's really where we fucked up, or not me, but where where beyond the texturism, beyond the texturism, I really think that's where the fuck up was like it was this constant, this like desire for aesthetics as opposed to like, okay, like what are people, how are people living that impacts the way that we do our hair? Like those
Yeah.
questions weren't answered until recently, and I think they came a little too late because a lot of people are having a hard time with the answers.
Yeah, a really hard time. I see it a lot online where her name escapes me now, but there's this woman that I follow on Twitter and Instagram, and she's always talking about like just wash your hair. Like all of those products you have, y'all don't need, and people will argue this woman down. She is a licensed hairstylist, has been one for about 15 years. This person actually knows hair. I actually started using, I wish I'll probably put it in the notes for the show so that other people watching it can get, in contact with her. But I started using her regimen for my hair, and it's the best my hair has ever been. And I literally just wash it every week, even when I have like an install. Like she did a video showing how you could. I just wash it every week, and it's the most like I go get my hair done, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, your hair is." I've never heard anyone say my hair was good. Right now, I go get
Yeah.
my hair done and stuff, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, your hair's so good. Why don't you wear it out?" And I'm just like, I'm lazy, so that's why I don't wear it out. But I've never heard anyone refer to my hair as good, and it only took me actually just keeping my hair clean. Like,
That's we were being told at the beginning of this movement, do not shampoo your hair and strip your hair of its oils, only
yeah,
co-wash. Not knowing that we were never removing the products from our
from my
hair. And the
hair.
crazy thing is there was a small sect of people who were like, nah, you need to wash your hair. And people are like, that only works if you have like 3C hair or if you have like 3A hair. It does not work if you have 4C. So we were all literally, the likelihood, and you're probably talking about Jennifer Rose.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Yes.
She's and because I remember when she first started saying this, and I was just like, no, I need my oils, I need this, or I need this. And there's I think Black Girl Curls on Instagram that I follow, and my sister was telling me like, no, you really need to follow them
Mm-hmm.
because like their regimen has really changed my hair. And one of the things they tell you in the beginning is that your hair is going to feel like crap because what you're trying to do is remove pounds and pounds and pounds of product from your hair every time you wash it.
Yeah.
So that first wash without the oils is going to feel crazy because, or the second or the third, it might take you 6 months up to a year to
To get,
undo
yeah.
what you have done. And we don't have the patience because we are scared of dealing with the reality of what our hair is.
Okay, it looks,
And
yeah.
I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but I really think that's what it comes down to, that we are very fearful of what our hair actually is. And so to even go through the process of undoing any damage that we have done is daunting.
Yeah. It is because when I first came in and interacted with her content, it was during quarantine and stuff. So like I was in the house. So it wasn't like I was going out. And like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I do generally outside of braids, I generally do my own hair anyway. So I'm like, I'm in the house anyway, so let me just start. So I use, clarifying shampoo, then the moisturizer shampoo, conditioner, and that was it. And I noticed as time went on, like my hair was fine, and I realized I was also trying to. I had to accept what my hair could do. My hair is not going to look a
Mm-hmm.
certain shine or whatever. That's not what my texture hair does, and that's okay. Like having a greasy head does not mean you're like having a shiny healthy head of hair. No, you just put mad grease on your head, sis. Like that's
That's it. And it's not going anywhere because it doesn't like our hair doesn't absorb it. So it just sits on it, which gives it the
exactly.
time. Like
And
it is not a representation of like what our hair does.
at all. Like this is literally my hair has been the best it has been because I finally was like, you know what? I'm in a house anyway. Let me just start washing my hair every week, like this person has said. And it was like, this was so easy. This was so easy.
It goes from us being told that wash day is gonna take me 2 days. Like
Okay.
I would start Friday and finish Sunday, and I wasn't leaving my house. I was not leaving wherever I was at. I was in the house conditioning for 6 hours, 7 hours, going to sleep with condition, which is actually a very bad idea. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody should do that. You can
Yep.
break your hair that way.
Yep.
Um, but And then I'm being told like, oh, you can do this. And then, you know, as time went on and I became more efficient, you know, wash day became shorter, right?
Yeah.
So as opposed to like the 48 hours, it became like 7 or 8, maybe 10, depending on what was going on. But then I'm introduced to this, like, you know, just wash. You really only need 5 minutes of conditioning. I was just like, y'all following the bottom? Like the bottom says only 10 minutes. Y'all actually doing only 10 minutes? No, 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 I can't do that. And the same thing with me. I started in quarantine, and I finally started kind of doing the same thing where I wasn't braiding my hair because I'm very serious when I say I do not know how to do hair whatsoever. Like I do it. I wear braids not because like I'm trying to change an aesthetic. It's because like this is the most you want. Like the bun is the most you gonna get out of it. But you know, I did start washing my hair in that manner, and you know, was able. I remember the day that I washed my hair in between meetings for work
Mm-hmm.
and finished completely, twisted everything, and went right back into another meeting. And I said, you know, 5 years ago this was impossible,
Yep.
and it also helped that right before I even was introduced to the like this minimalist method. I'm calling it minimalist because it's, you know, but it's really just the right way to, you know, kind of handle your hair. But
Yeah.
I remember that I finally decided I was no longer going to manipulate my hair to make it look longer. So at best, I would put in a couple of like, I would style it. So like maybe bantu knots or something like that. But I wouldn't do too much to like make it longer than what it appeared. Whatever happens, whatever happened. And it used to, and it just so happened that, you know, a pandemic starts, and so I don't have to worry about going outside. But even when I did start wearing it
Yeah.
outside, it was so uncomfortable because like seeing the girl next to me with all this hair, and this girl next to me with all this hair, and my hair is just deciding that like we don't want to go outside, and it just shrinks out. And I used to be so annoyed with it, and even now I still get a little annoyed, but it's now a lot of my like ideology around it has shifted. It's more so I'm annoyed because it's not keeping its style, but then I also remember that I don't know how to style, so that's why it's not keeping its style. It's not
Got
because of
it.
my hair; because of the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I don't know what I'm doing. So, and I think that if not for quarantine, so I'm always I recognize the privilege of that, but
Yeah.
if not for quarantine, if not for a pandemic that really forced me to like make a decision regarding my hair and how I handle it, and deciding I'm no longer going to manipulate it, I'm not sure I'd be able to accept the changes that's happening regarding like natural hair and how
Mm-hmm.
we go about taking care of our hair.
Yeah. It's wild how it's really all mental. Like I had to also change the perception of what I thought my hair was supposed to look like. Because even though I knew I had the texture I had, and I understood white supremacy, and I understood that, you know, that's not the standard I'm supposed to go for, that was still a standard I was reaching for, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to like look at myself in the mirror and be like, no, bitch. Like, that's not like you are a fish trying to climb a tree. Like,
Yes.
that is not going to work. So you are just going to have to like learn a regimen that works for you, but then also learn a regimen that is sustainable for you. Because that
Yeah.
all day wash day 8 hour, that was not sustainable for me because I was never really a do my hair every day person. Like I'm a put in an install, like, don't have to worry about it for a month. Like that's kind of always been my thing. So why would I think an 8 hour wash day would make sense for someone like me who doesn't really, you know, want to do anything?
It don't it don't make sense. Like we're trying to find ways to cut down on getting our hair braided. Like I'm
Ex-
trying. The minute I, which is why my braids have gotten bigger and bigger progressively over the because every time I think the last time I got like small knotless and like you know, it takes a while because I have a lot of volume of hair,
yeah.
and I think by hour 5 I was like, oh no, like I was like the way I was like I'm in the chair and I'm like sliding down. She's like, are you right? I was like, I have to go, and she's just like, what do you think is going to happen? And I was just like, oh my God. And on top of that, like a crazy person, I made an appointment to go somewhere that same day.
Yeah, that was not.
The person told me, like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm braiding my hair. They're like, why did you do this? And I'm like, I thought I did. Like I really did, because in my mind, I was like, there's no way I could sit in this chair for 4 hours. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why, the braids get bigger and bigger every time. I'm like, how quickly can we get out of this chair? I just don't have it in me anymore.
Yeah.
But like when looking back and like looking back at the progression of like how we have spent so much time in our hair and so much effort, and then realizing that all that effort and time is not even necessarily to look good, it's just simply to be accepted.
Yes.
That shit hits really hard. Like it is really something that like stops me in my tracks, because not to compare us to anybody, but very few people experience what black women, and black people in general experience
Yeah.
when it comes to hair, and how we have to like do all this manipulation and spend all this time doing all these different things. Or how when we decide that we want to go outside with a particular hairstyle, for example, this girl, all these conversations on Twitter about like, different hairstyles you can do with your natural hair. And this girl was like, you can just put it in a puff and go. And another girl was just like, I'm not trying to look like a 5-year-old. And it became
Mm-hmm.
this thing of like, people are like, why do you think you look like a child when you wear an Afro puff? Like, why is that? And she was just like, it looks like a child. And there was no attempt to really like critique or analyze why we feel children look a certain way. Why a child would be the one to wear,
I could see that, because I remember when Insecure, the first season. I remember me and my best friend, we were talking about it, and she's like, I love the show, but she's like, Issa Rae's hair always looks like she's like a little kid. And I was like, she does? Like, huh? Then I watched the next episode, and I'm like, she doesn't look like a little kid, but these are the hairs. These are the hairstyle she's doing. We haven't seen since we were little kids, because we got a
mm-hmm.
relaxer, and then life changed. So you just associate two cornrows or Afro puff or whatever with childhood, when it's like, no, that was just us doing our own hair and like accepting whatever our hair did and just doing that. And I think that might be the correlation. Like that's the only time in a lot of black women's lives, a lot of black people's lives, is when it's like you just did your hair with what it was, no chemicals, no nothing, and you just went and went about your day. That's the only time we did that. For many of us, I know some people got relaxers really young. If that wasn't me,
I definitely started off 4. So my mom started us on 4. She was like, I don't know what else to do, but
mm-hmm.
I definitely hear that, and I'm thinking about the fact that an Afro puff and a ponytail is our equivalent to a ponytail. Like the
That's
same
exactly
way,
what it is. Yeah, that's
like the
exactly what it
same way
is.
that people with like straighter textures just throw their hair back in a ponytail is the same thing.
Yep.
Whenever I put my hair in a puff, that's exactly what I'm considering. Like, this is my ponytail. This
Yeah.
is my.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this way, not down this way. And I really want. I was just like, I really want us to start considering that this is the way our hair is. These are our variations of it, and it has no age limit. It has no socioeconomic status limit. It has no gender limit. Like these are all things that we should be able to do with our hair if we stop looking at it as if it has to fit into somebody else's ideals.
Definitely. It's difficult to do when the beauty industry just period is just horrible to women
Mm-hmm.
anyway. So then on top of that, being a black woman, like there was a point where we thought, oh my god, the industry is changing and making products for us, when in all actuality it was just capitalism, and then them just capitalizing off of our insecurities, you know. So I think that's another reason why people were lying and making up methods so we could buy more products. Um, you know what I mean? And then sometimes I think to myself foolishly, like, why would I even believe that this capitalistic beauty system would ever cater to me? Like, why did I believe that for that little second, you know? Anyway, like, why would they make something specifically for my 4C nappy head? Like, realistically, being that we know the systems that we live in, it's just, foresight, whatever. But it's just like, I really believed it. I thought it was for me. I thought this whole, although I felt disconnected, like I said, from the YouTubers and stuff, I knew that part wasn't for me, but it was like, let me try this new product. Maybe this would, you were looking
Right.
for the product that would be the one.
No,
And
that's real.
it just never
Yeah.
happened.
It, and not only that, but it made me, because what the beauty industry was capitalizing on the idea of being different, because we were being told that we couldn't use, because like right now the conditioner I use is like Aussie or whatever the hell they call it. The one in the in the purple container.
Mm-hmm.
And we were being told that we couldn't use things like that because like our hair is not like theirs. So like, and this is kind of like the two-edged sword of of ignoring a certain set of people, um, but then also ostracizing them. So like black women are normally ignored by the beauty industry, but then also singled out as well too. So like
Yeah.
many times we're told, a lot of things we're told that we can't utilize because we are black women. So our hair texture is different, our skin texture is different. But in the same time, there's no education or there is no background from a lot of these business, a lot of these like companies to say like, okay, these are actually the things that you can use together, because like your skin texture and your hair texture actually doesn't matter in this case.
Yeah.
And we see that happening, another revolution that's happening is skincare. And we see that happening with skincare, where a lot of companies are coming out with like urban, or coming out with like multicultural skincare lines. But if you speak to estheticians, a lot of them will tell you
Right.
that like a lot of these are just gimmicks. A lot of them do not really have much of a difference for people of color. There are definitely different things that people of color have to be considerate of.
It's always interesting to me how these systems are able to like also capitalize off of our ostracization from these systems. So like they shut us out and don't acknowledge us, but once they see that we're always an active customer all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just interesting when they decide, okay, let's, this is the same stuff, but let's just put it in a brown bottle now, so that
Exactly. That is literally what Vaseline did.
Pantene too. They had the brown bottles. It was like, what's happening?
Literally, all they did was put for coily hair. That's what they put on it, for coily, and then they put for moisture, because we were all chasing after moisture, and then
Mm-hmm.
said like, this is going to put moisture in your hair. When like and again, like where it fucked up was that there was and this is something that speaks to the broader issue when it comes to black women in anything. There's such a lack of research regarding us
Yes.
that there's we have to come up with the ideas ourselves. I mean, even when we talk about relaxers, for the past like even like for the past like 5 years or so, one of the things that have solidified that I'm never going back to a relaxer was the fact that I started seeing papers about it being connected with fibroids.
Yeah.
And I saw it around me. I saw a lot of black women who were experiencing fibroids. Now, are there other things? The fact that, I mean, all women experience fibroids, but black women seem to have a higher number.
Yeah, we
And of
do.
course, stress. There's a lot of things that could be impacting that. But
Mm-hmm.
it has been showing that relaxers impact the endocrine system, the reproductive system, and we're starting to see the papers now that are coming about uterine cancer. And
Yes.
so like and it's the reason that we don't even have this information is because there was so little research when it comes to black women, and we literally have to figure it out for ourselves and hope for
Ourselves.
the
Like
best.
we're literally like the lab rats
Yeah.
in the process. Um, Unfortunately. But yeah, it's just it's I don't know, I'm getting emotional because it's like I wish it could just be hair, you know? Like I
Hmm.
wish that our hair can just be hair, and it just seems that we're so far removed from it ever just being here. Like even at this moment, even with the conversation you and I are having, and we have come to the realization about our relationship with hair and whatever. But like you said, there's pushback. People don't want to just accept that that's just what your hair does, and that's just what it is. Like we're just chasing. I don't. European standards, obviously. But it's sad. It's sad to know that we are still attaching, and I'm not critiquing the people who are doing this for survival. This happened,
Right.
like, so I'm not talking about those folks, or that those people are separate. But it's just it's sad that we have to like even have this conversation about hair. Like, it's literally just freaking protein. Like,
It
it's
is. And it's,
like,
it is. It is. And you don't have to drop an egg in your hair to like do anything either. No, it
that's a
really has to. It
I
really has
remember
to.
when I used to do stuff like that. I remember there was a boyfriend of mine who was like, "Are you washing your hair or baking a cake?" And that's when I was just like, "Okay, this is stupid."
Like you'd be in the kitchen mixing things, like you'd be buying a block of shea butter,
Yeah.
and like you'd have eggs and olive oil and avocados, and like and I'd be in the kitchen with the blender and like the fluffer, and you know, the amount of food I have wasted on my hair is unreal.
Yeah, it's unreal,
And
and it's
avocados are not cheap, and
no.
it was bought. I only bought them for my hair. I'd buy them, I would ripen them, and then I would put them in my hair. And I would have to use the whole thing at once because you can't keep an avocado
Exactly. Yeah.
overnight. And I just no, like the way the natural hair movement, quote unquote movement, has I'm sure that to be half joking but also half serious. I can only imagine how many women have been bankrupt by this, by
Yeah.
this movement,
Mhm.
trying to like chase like you're telling me that this is what's gonna get my hair, and you're going broke attempting to do it.
Yeah. Literally. And then you see people like Tracy Ellis Ross now having a hairline, and it's just like, I know, no one made her the standard, but she was the standard for so long, and then now she is a part of this machine, and it's just like, damn. But it's a lot, and I do wish that more of us got to the point where it was like, just kind of accepting that hair. And when I say accept it, I'm not saying that you have to love it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that you have to be proud, and I'm not saying that. I'm just saying at the bare minimum, just accept your hair and the abilities that it has, and then like work from there. I'm, definitely not judging. My hair is generally always the way because I do not like doing shit. So I'm, not saying that, but like, I just want us to accept it and stop trying to make it something else. Stop trying to prove things. Like, I hate with a passion. I hate when people like are trying to not like the whole shrinkage thing, and like and proving to folks that black people hair grows, so they show the one side shrunk and the other side long, and it's just like, who are we doing this for? Who are we showing this? Like, who are we proving this to? What?
Because like we nobody in the grand scheme of things, we're only telling people this because we equate long hair with femininity and
Yes.
wealth and
Yep.
beauty. So like we're telling people we're not ugly. It's it's just shrinkage. I have hang time too. And it's just like you don't, and I think that's where, in order for us to accept it, we have to be able to begin to ask ourselves the questions of, okay, so why do I want to show people that why do I stretch my hair, or why do I take those pictures, those length checks? And
Mm-hmm.
then, like, I take length checks because I want to see if my hair is long. Why do you want to see your hair is long? I want to see my hair is long because I think that I like long hair. Why do you like long hair? And I think you have to be willing to go through that line of questioning. And it gets uncomfortable. And I think that's
Yeah,
what
it
a lot
does.
of people are trying to avoid. And so they rather just simply say, "Oh, natural hair is too difficult, so I'm never going to deal with it."
Yeah.
And I'm not anti-wig, whatever. I really wish I actually could do wigs and
Mm-hmm.
install them, but the way my hairline is requires a little bit more effort, and I just never figured it out. So,
Uh-huh.
I was just like, well, I guess I'm going to be like, unless I get a bang, like the way that it's like,
Uh-huh.
I have a hairline that touches my eyebrows. And so I think that the wig movement, the wigs like being more accessible and lace fronts being more accessible actually aided in people being able to say like, oh, I just don't like natural hair. So like, because there was another option. But
Yeah.
when we had like years of like no other option, people were almost like felt they had to pretend to be a part of
Yeah.
this movement.
Mhm.
Like, maybe get like, another thing that was when, silk presses became a thing. Now all of a sudden, like, it was the options. And so within options, you're able to hide how you really feel. And I think that's what's
Yeah.
happening with people.
Yeah. I had to go through that checklist myself, the checklist that you mentioned earlier. And what made it helpful for me is when I learned that shrinkage was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
When I learned that my hair bouncing back in that way means that it was healthy, and if it didn't bounce back like that, then it wasn't healthy. Then I was able to reframe it like, okay, this is good. It's good that my hair is doing that. If it does the other thing, there's probably heat damage, split ends, because I learned that. But of course, someone had to figure, a hairstylist had to say that to me. um, but when I got to that, then I was like, now I do not care about shrinkage because I know exactly what that means, and my goal, I convinced myself that my goal is healthy hair now, right? So I don't have to fight against shrinkage. That's not my thing anymore. My hair can just do what it does. But it did take a lot of work, and it did take someone telling me, like, that just means your hair is healthy. Like, that's what
Exactly.
your hair is supposed to do, But I
Like
think,
your hair is supposed to retain moisture, and retaining moisture means that it's going to touch each other in order to, like,
ex-
when you,
exactly.
again, I wish, like, where we really, like, there was so much pseudoscience flying around and as someone who was there from the beginning, like, the amount of pseudoscience that was flying around, and, like, people who were saying they were, like, scientists and telling us one thing and telling us another, and we're all trying to, like, create hair that doesn't come out of our scalp.
Yep.
It has really impacted. I will say, okay, the positive of it is that I think a lot of us we are probably the last generation, if not before us, to not touch our children's hair with some type of, like, chemical
Yeah.
product.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, we've really stepped into giving our children the opportunity to decide what to do with their hair. I think
Yes.
that's one of the biggest parts, the biggest positives. But the impact on us as adults, I think, is really what I lament over, because, like, if all of that information was a little more realistic, I can only imagine, like, colorism, or, like, futurism, or, like, even in general, like, other facets of white supremacy, if it was done
Yes.
in a way that was honest to
Mm-hmm.
Black women.
I used to think that because the natural hair movement was aesthetic, I thought that maybe it would be effective because it wasn't attached to a politic as it was formerly. But obviously, no, that's not the case. I do agree with you when you said earlier that aesthetic is what kind of like messed it up, because one hair type was chosen as the archetype of what all of our hair was supposed to look like. So now that we've realized that we've removed it from a politic, we've removed it from an aesthetic, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna move to something else. And I'm like curious to see like what is next. It seems as though it's just getting better. I hope so. There is rumbling of relaxer sales going up, but there's no sound evidence. I like look to Google and see, so it's really just kind of us just saying that. Um,
I
but
have been seeing people kind of dabble back into the
yeah,
relaxers in the past, like,
I
two,
have
three
too.
weeks.
I have seen a few people too. I
And
don't know if it's in large numbers though, but yeah,
if there's one thing I have not, like, I don't, and that is the plus side of wigs, because very few people feel the need to, like, relax their hair because of
yes,
the leave out and stuff like that. But weaves are coming back and leave
yes,
outs are coming back. So I've seen people been like, well, I have to relax my hair because I can't put heat damage. And if there's one place where, like, I have never felt compelled to judge anybody regarding their hair choices. But if there's one place that I'm going to actively, like, if I have to shame you to stop you from wearing a relaxer, I will absolutely do it, because it's so fucking harmful.
yeah. It is. It's
And
dead.
normally,
We know it's deadly at this point.
we know it, and I, like, it's like, at this point, we need to treat. I think Kimberly Foster said it. I don't know if it was her or somebody else, but basically
Hmm.
we need to treat relaxers the way we do cigarettes. Like, if
Yes.
you're going, Like, you need to treat it the same exact way. So if somebody tells you they relax, you'd be like, girl, what? Like, and the thing is, like, normal, like, that's not my style. Like, I want people to do whatever they want with their hair,
Yes.
particularly Black women. But something that is so dangerous in a world that we don't even have healthcare, even when we got insurance.
Yes.
I need you to drop the relaxer. I need you to leave that shit alone. The creamy crack, I need you to throw that shit away. Like,
yes,
like,
it's crack. It's crack. Okay, it's crack. Put it down.
Like, ask when you go to the Dominicans, ask them what's in the bottle. Like be for real. Like,
yeah, and then as we're learning, all of those people on the porn boxes didn't even have relaxers.
None of them. They said some of them said they had pieces in their hair. Some of them said that they had just a blow dry.
Yeah.
And we were all like, I want hair like that. And the thing is, like, of course, our mothers were also feeling the same way. Like, I want my child's hair to look like this, and thinking stuff, not knowing that actually they were damaging our hair because, like, the chemical relaxers actually, if you don't know how to do it properly, it breaks the bonds of the hair, so you end up losing hair because of it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's what a scam.
Such a scam. I remember in my family, we couldn't get a relaxer until we started menstruating. So I didn't get a relaxer until like I was like 12. And even when I started getting relaxers, because I was into sports and stuff, I would always end up in braids anyway. So I would go long periods without relaxers and stuff like that. So I knew that my hair had different textures. But the relaxer box, when I would get a relaxer, go to the salon, they would put the texture for the thickest part of my hair. So the parts of my hair that weren't as thick or coarse are like falling out. While cause I used to think that the back of my hair just doesn't grow, but it's like, no, the back of my hair is finer and should not have a regular relaxer. Maybe it should have been the light or whatever the heck. But because they just saw my head and saw naps, it was like, just throw that shit on her whole head.
That was the same thing with me. And of course, like they used to, even as now as an adult, a couple of months ago, I went to go get my hair braided, and I got into an argument with the owner, who basically she told me a price over the phone, and then when I got there and I told her what I wanted, I took off my scarf. The price changed. It went up $100, and I wanted to fight.
No, and you should have wanted to fight, because what the hell?
Literally, it took me. I did not do the hairstyle that I wanted, and I still ended up paying more. And it took everything. What kept me from actually turning up in that hair salon was that it was a Friday afternoon, and all I could hear in my head was "Avoid Bookings Beloved." Like, that's all I heard in my head, because I was going to go to jail, and nobody's going to be able to get me out until Sunday or Monday, and I just can't have that right now. Because I was so angry, because it was simply because she's like the woman who came to do my hair, and I had been waiting for her and everything, and she saw the texture of my hair and was just like, "Oh nah, like, you can't do it." And they were French speaking, and my French isn't great, but I can pick up certain words.
Yeah.
And I figured, and I heard what she was saying, and she was telling her that my hair is too thick for the price that she's trying to charge. I'm going to be here forever, trying to do her hair, so she needs to charge her more. And so she tells me the price is $350, and I was like, "You have lost your rabbit ass mind if you think I'm going to pay $350 on something that like you charged me $150 a year ago." Yes, I know inflation, but you're bugging if you think it's gonna be like that. So things like that. Salons have been things like that have made salons almost a treacherous place. And I know a lot of us, we talk about how salons are a place of like, we talk about it in terms of endearment because it's a community. But rarely do we ever talk about like how that community also shames us for the hair that we have. And so many times, like, it becomes like dramatic to even like go to a salon, which is why a lot of natural women, a lot of people who have natural hair, chose not to go to the salon when they started.
And this cycle of us kind of figuring out ourselves, being lab rats, doing all of this stuff because no one wanted to touch our hair. I know for me, I I don't have great experiences with hair salons. Like when black women talk about that, I don't know what they're talking about because that's not the relationship or life I ever really had. So like when I was younger, we did have this one person who did all of my sisters' hair. I come from a large family also. She did all of our sisters' hair. She was fine, but I was the only person I felt safe with.
Yeah.
Because she was also, she had really long locks and she was really like, hair is special, hair, very like, she cut your hair, she's praying over your head. She was like that with hair, so that's why that was safe for me. But anytime I went to any other black person salon, I felt like horrible when I left. Like I felt like I did something wrong. Like all I did was come in here and sit in the chair, but you're acting like I did something wrong. So I never really, when anytime black women talk about that experience at the hair salon, I generally can't relate to whatever the hell they're talking about.
Nope, not at all. The only person I can relate to is that one person. I've had somebody who has braided my hair since I was like a senior in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and she's braided my siblings and stuff like that. And she's like, but she works out of her home, and so outside of that, like usually
Mm-hmm.
salons is just like I'm just bracing myself to enter into and see what they're going to say about my hair. And it has been since childhood. Oh, she has so much hair. Oh, it's too much. Oh, this is so much work. And it's just like, I am 8. I am an 8-year old, and you are complaining about me on top of my head. And now you're basically, and I'm actually really grateful that my mom celebrated, even if she did give us relaxers. I'm really glad
Mm-hmm.
that she celebrated the volume of our hair and how thick it was,
Mm-hmm.
and because if not for that, I would have really been destroyed by what happened every time I entered a salon, or I went to go get my hair braided, because it happens so much, like at any salon, whether it's to relax my hair or to braid it.
Mm-hmm.
I would have been really destroyed by it, because like it was a constant experience. And then just like spiritually, just like imagine somebody just all they're doing is complaining about your hair as they're doing it. Like that
As they're
is
doing it, yeah, that's.
like what
Mm-mm.
kind of like the type of like energy that you're like transposing, like not to all that, I'm very like not into that energy talk, but somebody touching your head and it complaining about it, like it can only go in a negative direction, like just
Yeah,
no way it can go any other way.
exactly. What are your hopes for what's next? Or like what do you hope to see? I know that you mentioned that it's great that now we're
Mm-mm.
not putting our daughters through the things that we went through. Like what do you see happening next?
I know I'm asking for a lot, because the hairstylist world is comes with a lot of different people and personalities. So this is an expectation, and then like they have their own things to work through, because we can talk about Dominican salons and all of that. But I think
Oh
that,
yeah.
and then how they are, kind of are using products that.
Sneak in relaxer and a conditioner and
But I think that I would love for a lot more hairstylists to kind of have more of a social responsibility, regarding how how they speak on people regarding their hair. Because I think as Black people across the diaspora, we all have similar belief systems regarding heads, regarding hair, and how we speak upon it and speak about it. And I really want us to kind of consider that when we are doing hair, our own hair, or other people's hair. And then definitely when it comes to children, please stop fucking complaining about them. They don't know. And if you
yeah,
don't,
they don't
and the thing is,
know.
it's actually okay if you don't want to, if you're like, I don't do children's hair. It comes with a lot. They don't,
Mm-hmm.
children don't sit still. And I think it's
Sit
better to do
still.
that than to start complaining over their head, because you're not going to it's not a good experience. And we want our children to not experience the things that we experience. So I just always, that's the direction I want things to go in. But I think for the adults, or for people who are old enough to kind of make these like decisions on their own, I think it's really important that we um, ask ourselves the questions regarding our hair that we don't want to, and be more honest with ourselves when it comes to our hair, because I think that's the only way that we're going to ever come to terms with what our hair does, what it looks like, and it's going to, I think, take us in the direction that we need to go. But if we continue to hide ourselves in the other options, I think we're also going to hide ourselves in other options regarding like texturism, or why we, contour our nose, or like, things like that, things that we don't, we choose not to talk about because we hide in the options of other things. I really, that's the direction I'd love for things to go. But I hope the minimalist, action is here to stay. The for real wash and go. Like I really
Wash and
hope,
go. Yeah.
I really hope that's here to stay. I hope that more and more women see it as something worthwhile for them. And I hope that I see more content from people who push that, so that way women get their time back and they're not spending hours and hours on their hair.
I think that's a great place to close. Like, just remove the harm from our hair. It's
Mm-hmm.
just so much harm that everyone is just inserting into our hair with the process, with the language, with the everything. Like, just remove the harm from the hair, and then maybe at some point, someday, somewhere, it can be like, oh, it's just hair.
Right? We're not
You
even
know?
talking about like the laws behind, which is also why
Yeah.
it really frustrates me when the way we act towards hair, because like there's actually fucking laws in place and have been, you know, not only in America, because we talk about the Chinyere laws in America, but we don't even talk about
Yes.
the similar hair laws that were in the Caribbean and in the African countries, due to colonization, that forced women to shave their heads off
Heads off.
to
Yeah.
so that they wouldn't be considered feminine or beautiful, or like, and a lot of times to dehumanize them. We don't talk about very much about like how these laws have like impacted generations of Black women and how they even look at hair or handle hair. So one of the things, they used to burn me up inside when men would be like, "Oh, you don't look good with natural hair." And it's like, you even know what it took for a woman to come this far, or for anybody, because even Black men themselves, like they're coming into a place where their hair is more than just waves or like a ball cut. Like they're making
Exactly. And even with waves, they were manipulating their hair to look like white men. Like, let's be for real about waves. Like,
because if you've seen a video of men who have talked about like how do you get waves, and then it's like put the wave cap on, put the water on top of the wave cap, brush the wave cap on,
brush it,
take
brush
off the
it.
wave cap, brush it down again, put the wave cap, a dry wave cap on now, but to get the dax, put the dax on top of the I was just like, how dare you?
Exactly. Exactly. I always say waves are the Black man's perm. Like, because that process in itself is just like,
you
it's a lot. So I want to thank you for having this conversation with me. I want to say thank you for all of the patrons. You help keep this going, so I appreciate you. And remember, you're a bad bitch. You're enough. Stay fly, and I will see you in the next video.